of pre-production or um yeah, this is the first time I'm doing one of these. So I'm not sure where to go to, but I did get some questions that maybe we could start with. Let me just pull them up. Unless, actually, here's a fun question. Um, for those of you who have just completed projects, I know it's not fun always to look back at what didn't work or what didn't work out the way we wanted, but it could be fun to share. And maybe somebody, if not me, has some, I don't know, something to contribute and say, oh, I've faced the same thing. Or if you want to share yourself, if you like had a moment of like, oh, wow, I learned that I'm going to do it this other way next time. Anybody
Yeah,
got something?
there's always something to learn, even if the project goes well. I recently finished mine, so and it turned out great. But in terms of post-production, I feel like my sound designer let me down. Because there was supposed to be a key moment at the very end where the it's supposed to be a storm happening. So it goes from a sunny, dry, arid day to a rainstorm, thundering, and lots of noise, right? It's supposed to sort of represent this crescendo in drama. But and that was the idea, right? And it's pretty easy to imagine, like, okay, it's going to be nice and quiet, and then it's going to turn into something really dark and and chaotic. But the sound designer didn't understand that vision, so I spent, like he would send me a revision every week, and I would look at it, and he'd make these very tiny adjustments, but not really what I wanted. But I would encourage him, like, yeah, you're doing a great job. And then a month would go by, and it still wouldn't really be what I had envisioned, but I gave him the pass because he knew more than I did as a sound designer. But now looking back on it, I'm watching the film and I'm like, yeah, the film falls flat because I didn't have that big bang at the end with thunder. And I feel like I let myself down because I let my sound designer get away with it because I was being nice. I didn't really push for my vision because he just kept taking forever to give me back an edit of the thing. And so I've seen TikToks where it was like, like literally people who work for clients, the clients will send them ask them to make an edit and they'll do nothing and then they'll send it back and then the client will be like, oh yeah, it looks great now. Like I was that client. I feel like I was the client that was like, hey, can you do this edit for me? And then he'll send me back something a week later. I'm like, oh, it's great, but he didn't do a dang thing, and I just got bamboozled. That's kind of what it felt like for me because it's like I knew it wasn't quite the vision that I had expected, but I still went along with like, okay, he knows what he's doing, right? So I think in the future, I just want to be able to, if my vision's not there, it's not being executed, I have to sort of push for it because there's no other opportunity than in that time because when it's all said and done, I'm not going to be able to go back and change it, and it really did affect how the film ends. And so yeah, I'll never know if that's ever gonna like make or break the potential for that film because I never got it to a point that I was satisfied with it. I just gave too much of that responsibility to the sound designer who I don't think really understood my vision. So that's that. And then the other thing was storyboarding too. I think what I realized is really hard during production is like whenever you have a schedule of shots that you want to do, and then you just sort of go off the rails and try to do something different. I'm not really sure how to like bake that into the shot list because and that's something maybe you could help me with. It's not a pre-production thing, but like if you're doing a totally different shot than what the shot list was written down on, like how do you bake that into like the sort of like the media management part of it? You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah.
Do you mean
Uh,
like media management part of it as in like the labeling of it?
yes, exactly. So if we're on scene two and this is um this is like uh scene two, this is like shot A um of like five shots that I want to do for the scene. And then I just sort of like throw in just a close up from a different angle. Um I did that a lot, I felt like, and then because a lot of my crew was they weren't like pros, so we were just sort of figuring it out on the day. I wasn't really sure how to like incorporate that into the shot list at the very end, so the labeling was a little off the whole time, and the slate was pretty much like useless at that point too.
Was it like because you wanted it to, well, hold on. I have so many other questions still even beforehand. Um, for the labeling bit, what I usually do if I'm on set, is I'll just say like it's A1 now. If it's supposed to go between like A and B, it's like shot A1 or A2. Just like whatever. It does get messy, but as sequentially as you can keep it for yourself to work with in the post. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, is
or
that
just
kind
hire like
of
a proper script supervisor, to be honest, like,
that
because
too?
that's what their job
Yeah.
is, right?
Well, that and a first AD.
Hmm.
Did you have a
Hmm.
first AD?
No, I mean it was super skeleton crew, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So and he didn't need to do any focus pulling. We didn't have an AC either. Um,
Yeah, which I've been there too. I've totally been the producer that didn't hire a first AD because I was like, it's fine, I can manage. And then first ADing and producing was not a fun thing because it's like managing all the logistics on top of the shots of everything. But
yeah,
okay, so then my question before that too is when you were developing your shot list, did you do a storyboard before you did your shot list?
I had a storyboard in my head, but
Ah,
the
I
thing is though, look,
see.
it was very like so the short film was adapted from a play, right? And it's a very simple play. It's two men in a room. And I made the shots very, very simple. We're talking center composition, single shot. Nothing over the shoulder, right? Nothing too crazy. That's all it is, really. And then I had to incorporate some inserts and some establishing shots. And then
Mhm.
I did a two shot. But
But all of these shots were in your head.
they were all in my head, yeah. We did like close-ups of the singles too, and then medium
Yeah.
close-ups, and then but in
Yeah.
my head, it was easy. But for my DP, he was like having to talk to the gaffer and the grip about how to set up the lighting, and
Yeah.
we did a proof of concept before that, which was shot a little differently, but not too differently. Where I thought like, okay, maybe I should storyboard it. So that's what
Hmm.
he learned, and what he imparted onto me is like, hey man, we could have gone by the day a lot faster if there was an actual storyboard that we could reference from. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's like
yeah.
storyboarding and script lining, I think, are two of the biggest tasks that people overlook in pre-production because they're so time consuming. And I get it. Like, I am still storyboarding a short film that is my personal short film that I wrote like 2 years ago. So it's
Mhm.
time consuming. And it's only time, like, it's only taken me time because I'm like taking on other stuff, not because like that's literally how long it's taken me.
Are
Just
you
feel like,
drawing it
say.
on hand?
Yeah, yeah, but like I do have like stick figures. Like, let me see if I even have it here. I don't have it, but I like literally just try to like it doesn't need to be something spectacular when you storyboard. Like there are artists out there that you could work with that could storyboard it for you really exactly or closer to how you're envisioning it. But my storyboards and the way I've done them for my own short films that I've worked on, like written and directed, I really just do like stick figure people. And if I want a medium shot, it's a little half body with a face, you know. If I want a close up, it's like the face takes up most of the square.
Mm.
Um, you know, like giving at least a point of reference to your team for what it is that you're looking for, is key as you've now learned, right?
Yeah.
Because that
Mhm.
way, it's easy to look at a sheet. Like I've been hired for things as a field producer or as a first AD where they only give me the shot list, and it's very challenging. It takes a little more time to be like, is this kind of what you're envisioning? And that's with me having like done stuff before and knowing for myself, like this is the standard for this production company I work with, but then sometimes others have like different things. So yeah, I always, as time consuming as it may feel to do a storyboard, do it. And you can save yourself a little bit of time if and this comes with the practice of script lining as well. Which, does everyone know what script lining is? Have an idea, sort of? Okay. So for anyone who doesn't, script lining, I think I actually do have good times. Um, Script lining is when you go scene by scene. Oh, I think I got rid of it. And you literally say, I don't know if you can actually see this, but you say like, okay, from whatever, from the top part of the page to the middle part of the page, that's what I'm envisioning this storyboard box to look like. Um, and then as you go throughout lining the script and matching it with your storyboard, so the way script lining goes, you've already got to have your storyboard. So you've got your storyboard and you've got your script on one side, and you're literally going like box by box in your storyboard and lining in your script like this shot here goes from here to here. And what I'm saying that improves with like the practice of doing it, or like for you like locking it in, um, once you've got an idea of like, oh, I've got 3 or 4 different close-ups of this. This is like a back and forth dialogue thing that's happening, right? It saves you a little time when you're lining your script to be able to see it like from here to here, we're just going to focus on this one tight shot of this person. And so for me, at least when I'm storyboarding, I know that I don't need to draw it 3, 4 times. I'm like, this is it. This is the
Yeah.
shot that I want, and I can just like go from there.
You don't want to get
Um,
experimental sometimes. You don't feel like, because I think that's what happens to me is I start to
yeah, no,
wander
yeah,
from
it's
the
fair.
vision.
Yeah, I think if
It,
like I because I'll storyboard, but I'll storyboard with the intention of like more or less using it as a tool to see it in my head and not so much like this is what the shot is going to look like, more to like communicate, more to like run it through my head as I'm going through the script, but also like to communicate, just another tool to communicate to your team because they can't see what's in your head, and you're also not going to get what's in your head. Like that's the thing I think you can fall into a trap with storyboards where you get that stuck in your head that it has to look like that,
yeah.
and then you get to the location and it doesn't look like that. and and it would make way more sense for the blocking and staging to do this rather than this, what you have
Hmm.
storyboarded, but you're so stuck on the storyboards that you end up just like missing out on the opportunities that are in front of you to do something else, you know?
Yeah. Hence the stick figure people.
Exactly.
Not as committed to like this is how I envision the background to be. Like a short I worked on recently, we did the storyboard and like it was very beautifully done by this artist. But then like when we were shopping for locations, there wasn't a location that necessarily matched the space we were wanting. So we had to reimagine. We didn't necessarily need to go and redraw the storyboards or anything. We just reimagine what the shots were going to be. And we sat down with the DP and with the gaffing team, the director, um, and myself, and we sat there and made a plan for, okay, that means these shots are going to be transitioned to take place against this wall. So it's fair to do that. We did it just because I'm big on just being as prepared as you can before you go on to set. We did it week before. Once we had locked in our location, we like looked at it and we sat down and made that plan for like this is realistically what our space looks like. And we did what's called an overhead map. It's very self-explanatory. I think you literally just like drew out what our space looked like, and we planned out like, okay, these shots are happening from here, these shots are happening from here, and that also gives the G&E team a chance to know how they're going to be setting up their lights, and that can save you so much. In addition to time, it can save you so much money because they're able to realistically say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to need to create this vision, or they're able to know what their limitations are. Like, we're not going to be able to bring in these many stands because there's no room for them.
Yeah, I do a lot of like practical effects and stuff, and those I storyboard like crazy, and I stick to those because you're it's sort of like action too, where you like that you really have to have that figured out. And so like with practical effects like a creature build or something, like you don't just build the creature and then just go and shoot it. Like you're building like, I've done builds that are like five different builds for one creature, right? So you have to know like, oh, I have to shoot it a certain way for it to work. And storyboarding, then you can figure out like, oh, okay, I have to shoot it from these angles so I can build it this way so that it cuts together and it works for what I needed to do. So yeah. But
So hopefully that
I was gonna
helps.
say in animation, because I work in animation for my day job. I'm an editor for a studio in Los Angeles, and the process and so much of the editing of the production is done in storyboards and animatics first, because you don't want to animate stuff you're not going to use. And so the first pass of that is called the thumbs. It's really, really rough thumbnail storyboards that we cut
Wow.
together. And then we realized like, oh, we need a wide shot here. We need to do an insert here. We need to do, this actually should be from this angle, whatever. And then you start to tool it from there. So that's why I think like doing storyboards, it's like doing them as rough as possible, like you were saying with the stick figures, so that you're really just looking at like the camera angle and the blocking and the staging, not so much the like making it look like a beautiful piece of art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also there is room, like the DP on this short, when it changed, well, what we did, so I was ADing on it. Um, but what we did was we had the shot list and then we plugged in the pieces of the storyboard that went with every shot, so that we could have kind of a visual cue. But then our DP went a step further and looked for like matching shots from other films that she could share with the director and say, hey, is this like the shot that you're going after? And so there was a bit of compositional like conversation there happening, but of course, yeah, once you're on set and you're like, see what you've got access to, you've got to pivot a little bit. But that pivoting, you can save time if you've planned all these things ahead. But that's a fun lesson to learn. I mean, it sucks. I'm sorry that you had to deal with it, but it's really fun to me to be like, oh, okay, cool. Won't do that again next time, you know?
Yeah, and it worked out fine. I mean, we shot from 6 a.m. to 8, so we went overtime. Um, Otherwise, we would have probably saved a couple of hours if I had storyboarded and like my DP was on the same page as me. But otherwise, it was a very simple shoot. I mean, that's why I made it simple and small too. Otherwise, we would have
Yeah.
gone over 2 days. Who would have known? But it's easy to learn when things are on a smaller scale because
Yeah,
then the
yeah.
stakes aren't so big.
Yeah, that's a huge thing I'm an advocate for too, is like if you are just starting out doing short films, don't go and try to make like a 10-page short film. Like try to stick to 3 to 5 pages for funsies. Just to get into the practice of being able to get everything that you want. Um,
Now, on the storyboards, if I just draw stick figures, is that because that's the extent of my artistic?
yeah, yeah. Let's see. I've got a question here in the chat. Um, Any specific guidance for someone who is going into pre-production on a self-produced one-man show, which will be shot and ultimately produced as a film, probably feature length, or maybe some potential sources of knowledge on that? Okay. Self-produced one-man show. By one-man show, does that mean like it's a one like in theater where it's one person performing the whole time, or one man show as in you're the only one that's going to be doing everything like camera, sound, lighting, and all of that?
Hey, so great question. I thought it would be easier to answer on audio. Great
Yeah.
question. So when I say self-produced one-man show, I mean, yeah, that the whole thing is being performed by me. Most of that is taking place in a theatrical setting, but then that whole live theatrical show is taking place within the context of the world of a film. But even that film is still mostly the one-man show. and there are just going to be some additional shots that are kind of shot on location to again fill in, for exposition or to fill in some blanks. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. So you're going to be filming yourself performing your one-man show on stage and then
Correct.
picking up some insert shots of you in the world.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
If you need me to carry anything, I will help.
Yeah, I would highly encourage you to not go about doing it all by yourself just because
Oh,
it
I
is a lot.
certainly, yeah. So to that other question of like, do I mean one man show as in doing it all on my own? No, certainly not. Although it has mostly been the case, because I've been developing it for a while now. Similar to what you said, I've been doing it on and off for a few years as I get kind of pulled into other things, but it's still very much a focus. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to see. It'll be also a few months, I think, before I go into pre-production, but I wanted to take advantage of whatever insight you guys might have.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think there's a lot. Like if you get me started on pre-production, I'm just gonna go. So I'd rather ask if there's like what are your biggest concerns around this production and like jumping into it?
I mean, my biggest concern is that there's going to be something I overlook, to be totally honest with you. If there's
Mm,
anything I'm afraid of, it's that rather than there being a specific element that I'm like afraid of tackling, because it's largely stuff that I've done, the exception being some effects related stuff. But I feel like that's going to be its own thing to tackle. It's not exactly a pre-production question.
it is though.
So yeah, I guess maybe I should just go with that last thing, which is like, do you know of any stories where someone went into a situation like this and kind of overlooked something really essential?
I mean, every production.
Right, yeah.
There's always something that is overlooked or something always goes weird. Like even the productions that I have felt the most confident in, every now and then it's like, oh, the caterer just decided they're not going to show up today. And you have to pivot. And I feel like even for as long as I've been doing this, every production feels like a brand new production.
Yeah.
And I try to, instead of allowing it to create anxiety, I try to turn the anxiety into a task list in terms of like, okay, what are all the things that could be going wrong or could go wrong on the day of, and like make a list that way.
Yeah. Oh, I am all
Because
about my lists, believe me.
yeah, yeah. But
Founded
what you were saying about effects, I think is important. What kind of effects are you trying? Is it like effects that you're trying to have like special effects?
So, most of what I mean is that there are going to be, so when I talk about these like on location shots and stuff like that, that aren't part of the theatrical show, those are still going to be shown during the theatrical show, either on one large screen or on several screens. It kind of depends on, well, first of all, the real world budgetary limits of like how many screens can I get and all that, but then also thinking about just like the world of this space that we are all in. There are all sorts of boundaries. There are a lot of boundaries between like kind of real life and dreams and a lot of like weird kind of blurring of boundaries in that sense. And so lighting will
Okay.
play a role and audio will play a role, and there's also just going to be some stuff going on the screens. So it's a lot. It's pretty ambitious, but kind of to your point of like trying to not overwhelm myself, I'm sort of taking it, it's one step at a time, but I'm trying to figure out in advance, since I know I'm not going to be producing this for another few months. I mean, I'm going to be signing on to all of these just to see if there are things that I haven't thought of. So that's really where I'm at. Like, what am I not thinking of? And if I don't hear that
Yeah.
tonight, maybe next month when I sign on to this, I'll hear something that I haven't thought of too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
But
well,
what about like
Um,
I'd like
any
to know
books come
more.
to mind on like
I'd
really
like to
great
know more.
sources
You
of
hooked me.
knowledge on this or anything like that?
um,
Not
I
really.
mean, so there's this book, what's it called? There's a couple books. Let me think of them real quick. But um, one of them is like a book for first ADs that
Mm,
has been really helpful for me when I get into like when I do sort of spiral into like, have I thought of it all? And I like where it goes through what every first AD needs to be looking out for, and that just helps me reverse engineer, like, okay, I need to make sure these things are in place,
That
right?
sounds super cool. So what book is
And
that?
let me pull it up. Give me a second.
Yeah, no, take your time.
And then there is this other book. Where are they? I am in my, oh, here. No, just kidding. That's not it. I have a ton of books. Let me just try to find it.
Yeah,
But
no, I appreciate it.
essentially, one of the big things I try to do too is like really break it down into the different departments. So for example, for production, thinking like strictly production things, like what are the things that I need to prepare for? I need to prepare releases. I need to prepare food. I need to prepare insurance. I need to prepare the contracts for people that I'm bringing on, right? I need to make sure everyone's got hydration. Um, so like the logistical, what I call party planning logistics. And then once I'm solid on that, I think about my department heads. And I really like to rely on my department heads in terms of asking them what they would need in order to fulfill on the vision that I'm trying to create. And so for that, that feeds also into as a producer working with a director, making sure that the director's vision is very clearly outlined in some sort of format, like a lookbook, so that we've got a very clear idea of the kind of, we were talking about earlier, right? Like the kind of shots that we're after, what we want the vibe of the space to be, what getting very solid and clear about. You're talking about having screens during your theater performance, being clear about what kind of screens are they, what size are they, so that we can plan ahead on like what kind of cameras are needed or what kind of right, like size shots do we need to make sure that things don't look weird on whatever screens you're using in the theater.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be directing photography as well, so I'll be sort of having a lot of those conversations with myself. But yes, 100%. I hear that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're gonna be performing on stage and the director of photography?
I'll have people that I kind of pass things off to day of. It's funny, I to be honest, so I got married last year, and when I did, I had this thought. So when my wife and I were planning the wedding, one of the things that came up was like, we're gonna have this person on the day of our wedding that we hand everything off to, and we stop planning and we just focus on getting married. And I actually remember taking that idea in the moment and being like, this is something I'm going to remember to do on my film. I'm going to be really deep on all of the planning of the shots and all this pre-production stuff. But day of, I'm going to remember this feeling of letting go of everything and just doing the thing. So that's sort of like, again, doing as much prep and question asking now ahead of time so that I can
Yeah.
kind of figure all that off and finally hand things off, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So are you handing them off to a producer?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't even gotten there. So I'm still figuring that out. I'm figuring out the personnel and I'm doing, this combination of wanting to meet people here, but also like meeting with friends I know. I moved here from New York a few years ago and I'm sort of going back to New York and talking to people there about it. So it's a lot of moving pieces that you can probably tell by now. But yeah, so maybe to answer your question, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. Okay. No. It feels like you should.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Only
probably right.
because I've been there as well, where I think I said this earlier, and I don't remember if you were on. Like I've done the whole producing and first ADing business and at the same time. And while it's possible, I'm not saying it's impossible,
Hmm.
it can get overwhelming because and then I say this even to the directors I work with, or even to like the directors I've worked with who also want to act in their films. It's
Yeah.
like you really want to try to take a step back so that you can be able to like my whole thing is always like trying to make sure that people can perform the performance that they are most proud of in whatever role they're
Right.
doing, right? So whether that's directing or whether that's acting, whether that's camera operating, whether that's first ADing, I look for people to feel their best so they can do their best. So I would
Yeah.
highly recommend having somebody with at least either first AD or producing capacity to support you with that, to keep
Yeah.
everything on track so that you can give your all to your on-stage performance. That sounds like it's going to have components of maybe responding to the screens.
Yeah, at moments, there's a lot going on. I feel like I could spend the whole rest of this thing talking about it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take up any more time, but there's going to be music as well. So there's going to be a lot. So you are absolutely 1000% right in terms of the importance of my needing to hand it off at some point. And I need to hear that as often as possible. So I appreciate that. I do have
Yeah.
some people in mind, but I think I'm in that place where I'm starting to answer those questions, but I also am not trying to get ahead of myself. So, and I can tell I'm just kind of not there yet. But yeah, no, thank you for that.
Do you have
Yeah,
a
for
theater
sure.
lined up, or where are you going to perform this at?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you have a theater lined up, or where are you going to perform at?
I don't. So all of these things you guys are asking me are like kind of in the next batch of tasks that I need to answer, which is why the timing of this is so great. But
Sure.
yeah, I'm going to be
I,
doing that for sure. Why do you ask?
ironically enough, AFS has a cinema with stages,
Oh
I
yeah,
know.
they
Well,
do
and
have
they
a
have all those
stage.
and they
great like
do that.
production
They have
spaces at
multimedia.
Austin Public and stuff.
That
Yeah.
as well. There's just sounds. And
Yeah.
with that, if you're certified, you just have to sign off on it.
I know,
Yeah.
and I actually am. Although,
Yeah,
actually,
I'm certified too. Imagine that.
it's awesome, man.
I kicked the land
I
one
am
time
totally
away.
on board with what you said before about what a great resource this place is. Actually, on that, I do have one last question, and then I'll
Sure.
step out of the spotlight here. So if we were, I'm still learning the ins and outs of exactly how the producer program works, and what I'm trying to figure out is, I know that there's some obligation, like if you take out certain equipment or use certain spaces there, there's a deal where you're supposed to be providing either some portion of the content. I don't remember exactly what it is, but my question is, whatever that requirement is, can you? Because like this is something I'm like very precious about. I'm like, well, I don't want to give away like a chunk of the film, but like, could it be like maybe you air a trailer on public access and that counts? Like, how does that work?
I think so. I think Doug's still on here, but I think that's true. I think that's true. You can submit a trailer of your project that can be shared. Another
Okay.
thing that I've been really into is could you film some behind the scenes that can also serve as a way to like promote the project you're doing and serve as a tool for whoever is also participating in an AFS to learn from whatever you're doing in your BTS, you know?
That is awesome, actually. Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to write that down right now because I did not know that that was an option. But that would be super fun.
Well, you
Super.
just have to submit content so that, you're giving and taking is
Yeah, of course.
right. Yeah. So I shared a link to the first AD book. It's called Running the Show. The Essential Guide
Mm.
to, I don't know what the rest of it is, but The Essential
The
Guide to
essential
Being a
guide to
First
being a
Assistant
first
Director.
assistant director. Oh, sorry about
Yeah. No, you're good. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun to read. And like I said, every
that.
now and then I go back and I'm like, is this lined up? And then just to kind of wrap up what I was saying about checking in with your department heads, yeah, like the biggest thing I say in pre-production is like, you may assume that makeup only takes an hour to do, but you're requesting them to do a full body monster thing? Question. Because this happened on a feature I just worked on recently,
It takes like
where
8 hours.
it indeed took about 6 hours for them to get this full body makeup on, but we had already booked our crew to be there the whole time. So we lost money and time and gas, motivation.
Mm.
So those are the kind of things where it's important to ask your department heads how long they need to successfully do the thing. Like, what do they need? Again, going back to like, what do they need in order to do their best for the project or to fulfill on the vision that you're trying to create.
I'm still curious about this monster thing that you were working on, Priscilla.
Oh
Is it,
Yeah,
yeah.
same.
is that in
Um,
Austin?
it was in Austin. Well, we shot in San Marcos. But yeah, it was this feature film. It's called The Relic Dragon, and we actually have a work in progress screening coming up. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, but we haven't put info out for it yet, so I don't know how to share it with you, but I'll find a way if you're interested. Or
I'm
look
curious.
out for the teaser.
I would enjoy seeing anything you have.
Oh, thanks. So that's so that I think no one has asked this, but I think another part of pre-production to be mindful of and that I've been trying to like talk to directors more about is being mindful of the fact that films take time to make. Because sometimes people, like somebody came to me recently with a feature film that they want to do that's a horror, that's a musical, but they don't have the script completed yet. Like they're still working through some drafts, and even the draft they submitted to me was like didn't have the songs in it. So I was like, this is still not your full script, buddy. And they were wanting to shoot it by the end of the year. And so just like from experience and from knowing and from working on things, you start to learn how long things really take to make in terms of like, they're still locking in the script for starters, locking in like the music and like all of those other components that go with it. Um, and then there's the raising money for it to make sure that you can do all of those things, right?
That's the
So
fun part.
all of it is fun, but yeah, so
Uh,
be giving yourself some grace to like if I tell people I'm working on things all the time and I really am, but people probably won't see them for like a year or two or sometimes three, just because of the nature of it all. So just being gentle with yourself if you aren't able to get your project off in the timeline that you're wanting because of budget, like budget needs, don't get discouraged and think that like because I had to talk one of my directors off the ledge last year. They were like, "It's just the universe doesn't want this project to exist." And now we're on the other side of it, and like the edit is looking fantastic. But she almost gave up on the project just because we had to push the shoot date a bit because we didn't have everything in place.
Maybe there were dark
So
forces conspiring against her at that point.
yeah, there's no dark
Gotta
forces, just
persevere. Know what you got is true. You gotta keep pushing forward. But
Mhm.
what I like about this place is just, there's like you were saying, it's an excellent point. But just little short things, just little, just maybe little 2, 3 minute whatevers, it's a big great starting point. And
Yeah.
and,
Let's talk
and
about this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a 2 or 3 minute short,
Let's
right?
do
I mean,
it.
it's still the same process, but
Yeah.
since it's 2 or 3 minutes,
I
it's
got
not.
one of just two dudes in a park talking. One guy comes
Right.
running by and another one's like, I don't want to give too much away, but it's
Right. I
like,
mean, my show was
Yeah.
2 guys in a room, right? But for some
yeah,
for some reason, it took me 10 months to even get the full product out, right? So July was when I was already developing the idea. And then October, I shot a proof of concept. November, we shot the thing, took a day. And then November all the way to April is when we finished post-production, right? But that's just 2 guys in a room. It was a 14, 15 minute video, right? But
I got
like
one that's about one to
Oh,
two
14, 15-minute
real
video.
quick. If
it
we,
came out to 13 minutes and like 40 something seconds, you know. But
Okay.
yeah, it was, you know, less than 15 minutes. Yeah, I mean, we shot it in a day, hence the overtime. Um, but for me, like the key factors that I had in place for sure were the actors and the scene, right? Like that part was already rehearsed multiple times. Um, the shot list was very simple. In terms of scheduling, we only had to schedule for the one day, right? So we broke it up into, we shot it in chronological order, and then we started at 7 or 6. 5:30ish, and then we were supposed to end at 6 p.m., but then we went 2 hours over. Because I think the start of the project was a little like slow ramping up into it, and then once you get a groove, we're all hitting and running. But yeah, the beginning took some time to get into. But even then, like so, it took me shot the proof of concept, and that was sort of like the doors opening for people to come in and join the team, right? So that was a month, but before then it was August, September, October, so 3 months of planning for that 15-minute thing. So if we're talking a 2 or 3 minute scene, right, you don't need a proof of concept for that, but you still need to plan, right?
Hmm.
Which like for example, locations, right? I had a location in mind and I was able to secure it, for a fee of $500. But let's say, for example, that you want to shoot out in a park, like Tim said. Um, Parks are usually public space, right? So you don't need a permit exactly. But let's say you want to,
You do though.
Probably do.
you do.
Why can't we just do
Okay.
it the
Yes.
gorilla way? Jeez Louise.
Well,
Right.
because
So,
so there's multiple layers. I'll just
No, it's the
so
bone side,
the
it's the
reason for permits is
tickly
that
side.
it makes it so that people are respecting the spaces that we're filming in, right? And so if you know anything about the recent like permitting changes and stuff, they like the restrictions get tighter, the messier we get with the work that we do. So that's why I'm a big advocate for, yes, always look up in wherever it is that you're looking to shoot. Austin does have a film permitting requirement, so you can't just go and film at a park. Also, some parks may belong to an HOA, not the city proper. So then you need to get permission from the HOA and get a release that way. And so all of these releases and things get more expensive and get tighter when we are not following the structures to make sure that we leave spaces better than we found them. Right. So I just want to get that out there because I don't want prices to go up for permitting.
You know,
um,
with movie magic, two
and
guys have
so,
a bitch running by you. It doesn't have
you
to
can say it's better to
pardon
ask for
me.
permission
it
than
could look like it. Oh, wait 1 second.
better to ask
Uh,
for forgiveness than for permission.
I like the way you
Assuming
think.
I'm not the type of person to leave things worse off than they
No,
were,
I'm
for
not saying
sure.
you
So
are. I'm just putting out there for the world
yeah,
so that
but
people
and
know.
it's like
But
insurance, right? It's like one of those
yeah.
things where it's like it's better just to have it, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
with the permitting too, the other thing is that if you were like if you're if you shot a film and it went great and it went to several festivals, there may be some festivals that require you to submit paperwork in addition to your film. Like they might want proof that you've got access to this, that you didn't
Mhm.
steal these shots, that you didn't steal these logos, right? So that some festivals require you to submit those releases. And then more so if you were looking to like distribute, they will certainly need those releases and a lawyer will deeply dive into them to make sure that everything's good to go to be distributed on Amazon, Netflix, wherever it is that it's going. Um, and so yes, so even though it feels like overkill, if it's just a 2, 3 minute video with 1, 2 people, it's better to play it safe than have your film lost and never be able to show it anywhere because you didn't get those releases. Because then
Yeah, that
that's a
makes
real waste of time and money.
that makes total sense, and it's harder to get it in retrospect than like when you're just working on it, like pre when you get it pre-pro during pre-pro than after the fact. Um, although no, sorry, I do have to log off. I feel like I'm still in the whole session here.
No, you're not. You're not
But
at all.
but I think you've made a good point about what the distribution strategy is too. If it's on film festivals and you want to stream it on like platforms like the big ones, then you're gonna have to have obviously the legal requirements met for all that, including location permitting. But like I said, if I'm putting it on YouTube, it's kind of a 2, 3 minute video on YouTube. Do I really need permission to use this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Like I said, people try to get away with these things, but My fear is always that somebody's gonna come and be like, "Hey, I recognize this space. This is my space. Nobody asked me." And that can turn into some kind of a lawsuit that comes out to be pricier than if you had just asked for permission and gotten a permit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Do you mind
Well,
if
that makes sense.
Yeah, jump in, Doug.
This sort of gets into what we teach in media policy because I sort of go through, and I don't know last time y'all, or I guess you've only taken it once, but when that was, I don't know. But I sort of go through the spectrum of like when people expect privacy and when they don't. And I talk about like, public spaces like city parks and things from not needing permission when you're low profile and just for personal use. And low profile is, you're on your phone, maybe a small camcorder, but you're not rolling up there with a box truck with a production crew. So it's really just, there are certain times
What
like
if it's FX6 with a sax with a tripod on it? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, so it really depends on the situation. And I align with Priscilla in saying like why risk it, right? Because you never know when someone's going to see it and you got to take it down. But technically monetizing a YouTube channel would be for commercial use, even though it's, sort of a new area of, commercial use versus personal use. So I usually say, personal use, low profile in a public space, you don't need a permit or permission, but as soon as you start getting into a larger like footprint production, film production, or you're actually going to be commercializing it in some way, then you would need to kind of have your bases covered there. So I would err on
Yeah,
caution at all times.
Okay.
yeah. Like even
Good
Mr.
to know.
Beast, even though his videos may look crazy and like they're sporadic and stuff, he's got a whole team behind him that's getting all of these releases.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
usually in media policy, when someone's like, "Hey, how does someone do this?" Then usually the answer is legally, um, and they go through and do their own due diligence. So it's just a good practice to do that.
And I like the word practice too, because yeah, as you grow and want to grow in your production and producing, you want to be stretching those muscles and practicing those muscles of being able to get a permit, being able to get insurance, whatever, all have you. I have another question from Damien here. Are there any grants, competitions, etc., to get funding as part of pre-production process? Yes. There are lots of them. I think the Texas Film Commission has a list of them on their website. I'm trying to pull it up now. I believe they've got one on their website. There's also writing competitions that you can sign up for, that you can submit scripts to, that you can win money to produce your thing or a portion of the money. Austin Film Society offers grants. So what does that answer the question, or did you have further, more specific thoughts?
No, that definitely answers the question. I mean, for me in particular, I didn't introduce myself earlier, but my name is Damien. I'm an actor and currently in LA, but my full residence is in Austin. But I'm actually thinking about creating my own short this year. And that's like a really big step for me because I have no experience whatsoever with filmmaking. Just kind of been on sets, but I've seen a couple of things and made a pretty good network so far, filmmakers from, different schools and stuff like that. But all that being said, I'm writing my script and I just want to be equipped to just gather everything and have everything ready and, have someone, maybe help me out with, I'm really new to this, but I'm familiar with like business related things and legal things like trademarks, or for example, planning like the music or like licensing of music and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I can Google some of that stuff, but at some point I'm going to need someone to take care of it, So that's why I was asking. But yeah, if you're saying that there's a link on the Texas Film Commission, I'm pretty sure I can find it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of how I've gotten here has been Googling things and learning them and
Yes.
asking friends, and participating in Austin Film Society thing. So yeah, for sure.
On that
Um,
on that note, I am familiar that it's either, I'm pretty sure it's the Texas Film Commission. There's like cities that are part of this list of like places where you can film, or they're like friendly film cities in Texas. Like what does that mean? Is my first question. And second of all, like what are some of the associated costs with that, I guess, is really my question. Or is it just about getting a permit to be able to, film on that location, etc.?
yeah, I don't know much about all of the pieces to it. I do believe that um if I'm understanding correctly, so I'm from Laredo, Texas originally, and they're
Hmm.
working on becoming a film-friendly city.
Hmm.
And what that's involved is just getting our ducks in the row for permitting, like how do we create a system so that people um, can get permits from us and there's not just like a bunch of crazy people running around the city. Um, uh, what they've done is they've essentially given the Laredo Film Society tools so that they can attract more film to their city. So it's really just like a resource for cities that want to have filmmaking happen in their jurisdiction, and giving them tools for how to go about it. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's helpful. I sat in a, what's it called, the session in South by Southwest, and it was with the, I think it was the Texas MPA, the Texas Film Commission, and I think Austin Film Society actually. And they were talking about some of these things. And so when I heard about it, I was like, okay, cool. Let me write it down. I'll follow up in a couple of weeks when I have something together. So yeah, that's actually really helpful. If I can ask another question, um, I am really curious about, in the pre-production phase, right? Once you have a story to tell, right? Like a script. Um, and I'm familiar with, creating like a deck for it and selling your idea to some extent. Again, never done it, but familiar with the concept of it. Like, at what point do you, I guess, feel equipped to start bringing on people? And how do you, I guess, like estimate what the cost will be? Like, I have some friends, and I know some friends will, want to do it like for free or whatever, but I'm a big I'm a big proponent of incentivizing people, because I feel like if you incentivize people, then they have skin in the game to actually do a good job, and if you sell it in a way that you're like, hey, like this is where I'm gonna put it out and this is how I want to showcase it, etc. So yeah, I guess at what part do you, like, does one feel comfortable in bringing on other people? I know it's a very vague and general question, but like again, first time doing this, so yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's a great question because I'm actually working with a director right now who kind of has and I get it. It's really exciting once there's like movement behind it. I have like a director I'm working with who's like gone and like tried to crew up a whole bunch of people, and I'm like, we don't even have the money yet, buddy. Let's slow down. Um, but so to answer your question about when you bring people on board, I usually start with sorry, I'm gonna put my directing hat on. I would usually start with like finding a producer who can support me with finding DPs or generally like crew. So I would find like a producer that I trust as like an individual that hires like people who are trustworthy. Because then I know that they would help me find a good crew. And then the first person I would crew up would be a DP, to start collaborating on that storyboarding and on that shot listing and like really wrapping our head around what it would take to make this a reality. And then you can obviously be talking to people about it, that you want to onboard to your project. And you can start actually asking them too about what their rates are or what they would do it for. So I know you're saying that there's like people who would probably do it for free and people who have already
Right.
told you maybe that they would do it for free. So what I usually do in that case is I say, cool, like I am so grateful, obviously, that you are willing to do this for free. But if we were to be able to get money for this, what do you think would be a fair number for you? Something that you would just be comfortable with getting for the day of the shoot, or a day rate for the shoot. And then that usually pulls some kind of a number for me, and I can plug that into a budget and start piecing in the budget. Another form that I've been using is paying everyone the same. So like having everyone be on an equal footing, especially if it's like a collaborative thing that it's like amongst friends that we're trying to do. So having everyone get paid like 250 or 300 a day, which is significantly lower than what I'm sure they're accustomed to earning. But so you can play it one of those two ways, asking people what they'd be willing to at minimum get paid for a project like this. And or sticking to like everyone on the set, no matter what role they're in, are getting paid the same. And then as far as onboarding people, yeah, so I would onboard the DP first, get my ducks in a row about how much it's going to cost me to produce the project based on like the schedule that we need to get everything that we want. I mean, the schedule is the first thing because then that determines like meals and all that and locations. And so once you've got all that locked down is when I would reach out to crew so that I can give them an exact and within the scheduling, sorry if this is all circular.
No,
Messy,
this is
let me
really
know.
helpful. My brain also works the same way. It's
Cool.
like these questions, it's like you're saying something and that brings up another question, and that's exactly how I think. So you're good.
Cool. Yeah, so then with the scheduling of things, if you determine with your team, with your producer and your DP that this is going to take you 2, 3 days, 5 days, whatever amount of days to shoot, you would look in your calendar and look at when realistically you could be shooting this. And then that way, and then my approach would be to first like start raising money, but still
Right.
be like engaging with the people that I would like to be part of the project, giving them roughly the days that I'm looking to shoot, but not booking them just yet, especially because I'm paying them so little.
Right.
I usually am like, I would love for you to be a part of this. These are the dates. I'm still raising money, just like I'll reach out when it's time. And then once I've got the money is when or once I'm like 75% of the way, is when I'll be like, all right, let's do it. We're doing it. Like I want to book you for these days. And yeah.
Nice. Okay, sweet. That actually really lowered my anxiety because I was just trying to understand and wrap my head around like how like things come first. I'm like, should I be reaching out to people, connecting with them, etc., and stuff like that. But I think it makes sense, like understanding what the scheduling is going to look like, the budgeting, etc., gives you a perspective of how long, it might take to shoot that specific story or vision, and then you work from that, So that was actually really helpful. Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, booking people, my big thing is just you want to be as clear and concise with them as possible because, yeah, so they know what they're signing up for. Cool. That was a great question. Anyone else got questions or want to just chat through anything that this brought up for you? I'm trying to see if I can find that other book that I was telling you guys about that has brought me a lot of peace. I'm sure it's somewhere on my bedside table. Mm, let me. If anyone wants to share anything you've been working on, or like where we started, any project that you worked on recently that you're like, could this have gone any better?
I have a fun story.
Sure.
The first time I shot with a crew,
Yeah.
closed my door. My kiddos here. Yeah, so I do a lot of shorts, and I work in animation, and I've had some shows and stuff. Features, I'm still like gearing up towards that, but doing a lot of shorts. And so this is the first time I had shot anything with a team of people, with a crew. I had a great DP who has gone on to do like dang, what was the show? He's great. Carl Hurst is his name. Um, and so it's going to look really good. It was for a contest for a movie called The ABCs of Death, which was like an anthology movie that started, I think, in the mid 2000s or something. Anyway, so the I had the script written, crew was showing up, a week from now or whatever. I had to do some life casts of my two leads, which is when you do a full head cast. Which is different than just a face cast, which is just the front. This is a whole full head. So I had never done that before. I've done casting, but I've never done full head casting. So I had somebody who was a makeup person who was going to help out, and I told her what I wanted to do and how much money I had, which was like $200. And she was like, "That's impossible." And she told me this a week before we're going to shoot. She's like, "That's impossible. You can't do that." And she just ghosted and disappeared. So I was like, "All right, I'll show you it's impossible." And I went and got all the materials I knew I needed. And my lead, who was also my roommate at the time, and a friend of mine who was a art department guy, we spent like the whole day figuring out how to do this live cast. So we got her life cast, and then we needed to do the guy, and so I started to do him the night before the shoot, and it didn't work, and all I had was his face. And the kind of the premise, it's a sci-fi kind of weird premise where this woman finds a severed head that falls into her backyard, and it possesses her, and it makes her eventually chop off her own head and throw it into the next yard, and the story continues from there. um, so I didn't have his head. We're shooting the next day, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm even gonna do. Like that doesn't, So I went for a walk at like 3 in the morning and rewrote the whole script so that she finds her own head that falls into her backyard, and that's what possesses her. And then she throws her head to somebody else, and he looks, and it just is the face that changes with his wig, 'cause he had like a big kind of puffy hair. And so I just rewrote the whole script the day before we shot. And it was totally fine. However, the crew, because I didn't know exactly, like I was still kind of like frazzled from that. The crew picked up on that, and they were not on board with me. They were fine. They were nice. They were there to do a favor for their friend who's the DP. But they were not on board with me. They were, and I could tell. And it was like a 3-day shoot or something like that. But the last thing was the effect was the head had needed to drag across the ground, right? And that we were shooting in this backyard area, or in this back parking area. And again, it's like 2 in the morning. The crew is over it. Like they don't want to be doing this anymore. And and so I had the head rigged up, and I start to pull it, and it just bounces like a basketball along the ground. And you could just see they all just kind of went like this. And I was like, no, what am I gonna do? So again, I was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I got a pole. I got a boom pole, an extra boom pole, and some fishing wire, and we rigged it up so that it floats instead of it drags. And it worked out way better than I would have thought. This was like, I think, in like 2005 or something like that. So it was a while ago, but it was the biggest learning lesson in terms of like, you can prepare for anything and and still not have it work out, or also like being able to change everything on a dime depending on what happens. And also how not to lose a crew. And I've never had that experience happen again. So that was a
For
very like
sure.
crucial, important lesson in terms of like how much directing and producing is just people management and
Yeah.
like most of the work, because if they're good at what they do and they're happy, they're going to do great work. If they're good at what they do and they're out of an obligation, you're not going to get the best experience with them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's another thing that I actually implemented into pre-production, is having a conversation, having a one meeting where all department heads, and I mean, you should already have a meeting, but in that meeting that you have with all of your department heads, having the director share their vision with the team so that everyone is on board and knows what they're jumping into for the day or for the shoot. And so I have the director dig deep into not only like what the story is, but like why they're choosing to tell it and why they're choosing that like we should be making it now.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because yeah, I've been on those projects too where people are like, why am I having to run around and do all these things for what? And you're like, well, why did you do it to begin with? Like everyone's got their why they came on board. So that was something I did for that director that was feeling like the world was just gonna like that the universe was against her. I had the crew as well share what about the script excited them. And yeah, that was also a fun shoot. It was a lot of very green filmmakers that I was coaching through a lot of things, and it was really fun to see them be like, I don't know if that's possible. And me just being like, let's give it a try, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting because like sometimes there are just like the seasoned crew that they don't need that like reinforcement. It's like, yeah, we're here, we're doing it. Like you don't need to like get us on board with your vision or whatever. Like just tell us what we're doing, And they're
Yeah.
like totally happy with that. But yeah, that's it's funny.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think that's such a valuable lesson. Um, yeah. Anyone else got any lingering things that came up from this story? I'll give you a second. I'm still trying to remember the name of this book. The reason that it gives me so much comfort is because it's this producer woman and she's a little out there, but the way that it's written feels like a journal of a day in her life or multiple days in her life as a producer, just like putting out fires left and right. And so when I've worked a really rough day or just dealt with like a rough like fire to put out, it's really nice to go and read this book and be like, okay, everyone goes through this. It's not just me. Which I think kind of speaks to what Zach was saying earlier about like what are the missing pieces or what are the things that I could potentially overlook. That's literally even the producers that I look up to share how they feel that way as well the night before producing or before a shoot is happening. So that feeling never goes away. I think it's part of what makes a good producer a good producer is that they're constantly trying to think like, yeah, what could go wrong that I can be ready for. And then, yes, there are things that on set you can't control. Like one of my friends is on a shoot in Florida which apparently recently had a tropical storm that hadn't been announced or anything. And so she had to pivot and like the whole shoot had to pivot. And this was for like a commercial. So there's like tighter timelines on that. And yeah, it's just like, yeah, some of those things you can't, how do you prepare for something like that, you know? I mean, now maybe moving forward, you're like, okay, if a storm were to hit, we should have some kind of a contingency plan for projects that we do in Florida moving forward. But you can only learn after you've experienced it. or hearing from other people's breakdowns.
Yeah,
Um,
I've had actors just like not show up or think the shoot date was a different day, and we're like all set up and ready to go, and we're like, "Where are you?" Oh,
mhm.
yeah, I thought that was tomorrow. It's like, no. It's like, okay, well, we're just gonna shoot everything we can without that person.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of those, I think, oh, well, he's gone now, but that feels like something that I forgot his name had shared about his schedule being a little bit off and like how do you adjust? Like, yeah, sometimes that happens too. You have to be on your toes and be ready. And that's where having that storyboard um very clearly in your mind and in your first AD's mind is important, I think, because then you're able to easily say like, okay, well, we're pivoting to this thing and we're gonna shoot this thing out in this different order until this person gets here. But like you don't lose track of your film. You don't end up in some weirdo like, did we ever get that shot?
I have a technical. One of the things that I loathe is like spreadsheets and like any of that kind of thing. I hate them. Uh, but I have to use them. What do you use to work out a schedule? I know that there's certain software like Studio Binder or something where it like
I hate Studio.
Yeah, I've never used it. I've never used it.
No, you're fine. I say that, but I use their things as examples in my class. So
Yeah. But like an implementation of like script boards and shot lists into schedule, something like that, that it all kind of fits in one place.
yeah.
Yet to find that kind of
Yeah.
workflow.
Right now I've been using Gcasper. It's like a free here maybe I can look it up. It's a free call sheet making app.
Mhm.
Or not app, it's like a spreadsheet on Google Sheets. But the call sheet page, so within the call sheet spreadsheet, oh, maybe I can pull one up actually, and I can share. Let me see. Let me pull one up that I've recently been working on. I think it's the prettiest now that I've gotten more of my own hang of it as well. Okay. You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me make it just a little bigger because it's weird. So this is what the Gcasper spreadsheet looks like. You can build out your call sheet in here. Maybe that is too big. Call sheet front, call sheet back. All of the white spaces in here are auto-populated by everything that you fill in these blue boxes. And then these light blue squares, once you filled out what I'm going to show you next, which is the breakdown, you just type in your scene number and it'll auto-populate info for that scene, and then it turns yellow to tell you that you need to put in the cast that are supposed to be in that. So it like double checks for you to make sure that the right people are called, because I've made that mistake before. So all of that is put into this spreadsheet called the breakdown. And if you were using Movie Magic, then you could export data from in there to fill this in, which would be the scene, pages, day or night, all of the regular stuff you'd have in your breakdown, props, hair and makeup, costume, etc. And it's got like
Sorry, really
stuff.
quick.
Yeah.
I just heard you use the phrase movie magic in a sentence and being totally serious as if it was like a tool. What is that?
Yeah, it is a tool. It's like a company that they do, I think now budgeting as well. And they've got like it's like a scheduling software as well. I've never
Okay.
actually played around with it much, but you can use it for scheduling, and for doing these breakdowns, or you can be like me and just do them by hand, depending on the size of the project. I tried doing it this way for a feature film, and I only got so far. Yeah, but
So I'm looking this up and I found the closest thing that looks like it could be this is Movie Magic Screenwriter, and it's at screenplay.com. Is that the same
yes,
tool? Okay,
yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. And so if you don't want to pay for that software, you can plug everything into Breakdown yourself. Um, and then from there, what I do is I duplicate it and I create a schedule tab. And in this schedule tab, I color code all of the things that take place in the same location. If it's the same location, just different times of day, I'll color code it based on that, just whatever works best for you. And then there's this formula that I just copied from the call sheet Frenchly, just because there's so many loops and stuff that are tied together to make this whole spreadsheet work. So there's this function down here that adds up the sheets. So I just copied that and created these lines where I could sum up how many pages are in each day, but I created all of this. So I just like added lines, put the formula in, and then broke it down into shooting no more than 5 pages in a day, but some of these you see have shorter days, just because of logistical things. Yeah. Does that help,
that's great.
Benjamin? Yeah, and that way I've got all the same info from the breakdown and I can use it to, as you would probably know best, like plan out if there's any special effects things and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone have any other questions about this step of pre-production? Oh, I see some messages. Cool. All right, well, I'll stop sharing now, I guess. How do I do that? Actually, I don't know how to stop sharing. Now you just see my whole desktop forever and ever.
I think it's a little.
Oh, here it is. I found it. Cool. Yeah, what is it? What have you been using? I'm curious for scheduling things.
If it's just shorts, I just do, a really simple spreadsheet, or just even a Word doc or something, a Google Doc or something like that. But like, when I'm working on the shows, production has all of these tabs, and they always have like an edit notes tracker and stuff. And I'm like, can I just not? Can I just just send it to me as a text file or something, and I'll deal with it. But yeah, I got to get better about using those things. But
yeah, and once you get into it, it becomes a little easier.
So just to put this out there for anyone who may not have heard of it or tried it out yet, Notion is just like something that I picked up kind of during the pandemic, and I just use it to organize my entire life. Like it's absurd how life-changing it has been for my organization. So I don't know how much of that would be applicable to, I guess I'm gonna find out as I go through this process because I do everything in Notion. This Gcasper thing does look awesome, but I mean, just you can do anything in Notion. So it's just one of those
Yeah.
things where I assume it can do whatever I need to do. It's amazing.
For sure. Yeah, Notion is really great. I myself haven't figured out how to use it for doing the things that Gcasper does just yet
Okay.
because there's a few other components I didn't show off and that that are cool. Like it can track meals. Like you're able to put people's dietary restrictions in the cast and crew
Oh,
tabs,
that's great.
and it'll tell you how many vegetarians there are, how many gluten-free there are. And so like as in production world, it saves a lot of time and a lot of anxiety. Because for some reason, that's the biggest thing that gives me anxiety is ordering food for people, of all the things. So
A lot of
yeah,
allergies out there, so I get it.
yeah. But yeah, no, I've been using Notion as well as a project tracker in terms of like larger scale, like making sure that conversations happen, making sure that I have sent somebody something. So kind of like a task list. I've used it in a sense that like a producer I work for sometimes has onboarded me to her projects. And actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, I've never tried to copy her template, but her template is awesome. I've been still like trying to figure out what template works for me for organizing to-dos and stuff like that.
It seems like Notion is basically able to produce like any basic document you've ever had to produce. It can do some version of it that's like just insanely customizable. So like you can do spreadsheets, but like they don't just have to be cells of numbers. They can have like check boxes in them. And like the
Yeah.
bottom of the column can have like a total tally for how many boxes you've checked off. Just like stuff like that. It's like super customizable. It's just like so much fun. And like if you're someone
Yeah.
like me who likes like bullet lists, for example, it's like I mean, it's like a bullet list circus, like my Notion.
Oh,
It's just like
yeah.
so I have so much fun with it. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. No, great resource for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other fun tools you guys are using or looking to find a solution for? Let's exchange notes.
I don't know. I mean, I like I'm very doing things by hand, so I've been storyboarding a little bit. Um, Again, just like printing out the pages and doing it that way. People
I
always
do
bring
that
up
too.
people always bring up doing AI storyboards, and I get it. I get it, but I also it feels so like you're not you're not figuring out what the shots are to tell the story. It's not just like coming up with the pictures and then just block putting, attaching it to your script. Like kind of doesn't work that way. It's like, why would you use a wide shot here instead of a close? Why would you do a tracking shot here instead of that? So I feel like I haven't really touched AI for any of that stuff. It just seems like why? Like,
Yeah. I feel that way too
why?
about like even generating an image through it feels like it's so much harder than if I just drew it.
It also like
You know?
it's also like you're not learning. Like if you have an interest in filmmaking and you have an interest in this stuff, why cheat yourself out of the learning experience of doing it? Rather, you know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
think the only thing that I've used AI for is just to make pitch decks. Just because ordinarily I would be looking for like Google Images and just photoshopping stuff together,
Yeah.
and it's not being used for anything. It's not being
Yeah.
put out into the world. It's not being sold or anything like that. So I've used it for that a little bit. And that's actually helpful because sometimes there's like a very specific thing you need that you just,
Hmm.
aside from painting or drawing it yourself. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any other tools that I'm doing. Like I said, I'm gearing up for I got a couple shorts that I'm doing, just really super short stuff, but then this feature project that my wife and I are writing with the intention of shooting it this year, just super low budget. We have the nice thing about it, like I said, is we have the location. I've got the leads, which is my wife and my daughter. um, so we have crazy awesome location and camera equipment, and the only thing I need to scrape some money together for is the effects materials. Um, but yeah, I think that's it's been pretty awesome because it's like I did the thing which I've never done, which is you reverse engineer the story from what you have. I've done that for shorts, but never for a feature where I'm like, oh, okay, I've got a four-wheeler at this property, so I got a scene that has a four-wheeler in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Working backwards from what I have, which has been great because now it's like this is probably like the fifth or sixth feature that I've written, but it's the first one where I'm like, I could actually do this one, you know? So it's been easier to get through it instead of being like, all right, well, once I finish this, I gotta pitch it, or I gotta send it to so and so, and I gotta like get the locations and all this stuff. Like I have all of that already, you know?
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. I've been missing that magic of reverse engineering things. So I've been also diving into that in the last few weeks. Like, wait, didn't so and so pitch me an idea? And then I think to like, actually, I think I've got that space.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's cool.
I just met a DP a few days ago through the Austin. There's a couple of different things, and I get them confused. The video producer meetup or something. And he was just telling me about this idea that he had for a feature that's about a photographer in the 90s, a photographer who works at a photo developing. I didn't want to state shop, but I guess they were shops. I don't know. A photo developer, and he starts to get photos from somebody who's like taking almost like serial killer, like they're photos from a serial killer, and then he ends up getting involved with this like serial killer, and at some point he starts sending him photos of himself, like, so it's kind of creepy like that. And he's just basically like has this idea, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, you could shoot that as a short, and it's just all in one location. They used to have, I don't know if you remember the like photo developing booths that they used to have that were like standalone kiosks.
Oh yeah.
Maybe those were more common in California, but like I'm like, you could shoot it all in this like claustrophobic photo booth, developing booth, and make it like a 5-minute short,
Yeah.
So
it'd be funny if it was like a ticket booth thing that he was like
they were
where
essentially
he's
like that, or
developing
like
it.
those little like coffee huts
Mm-hmm.
that you would see and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes but it was like a photo or like a key making shack, where he was key made. But
I love it.
yeah. So, thinking about that too is like just getting some shorts done and doing them quickly and cheaply. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
Because I got no money, and like nobody's gonna give you money for shorts unless it's like for a bigger project,
Yeah.
So you might as well embrace the no budget is how I feel.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like some people are definitely better at embracing it. Because sometimes I panic. I'm like, everyone has to get paid.
Yeah, I know.
But I know that there are people willing to do things for funsies. I'm just like, you gotta get paid something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got about 20 minutes left. Zach, has any of this conversation brought up anything for you for your upcoming production as well?
Not specifically yet, but I mean, it's like if like a little question comes up and then I feel like you answer it. So I mean that's good. It's just been a lot of that. And like I said, like I'm gonna be jumping on as many of these things as I can. So that will undoubtedly add up to kind of like a patchwork of little solutions I needed. Just a matter of time. But thank you for
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to go all the way till 9 if everybody feels like they're in a good place and they've got all their questions answered. Like I said, the other ones have gone to about an hour and 45 minutes, so seems on par with that.
Well, I guess one that comes to mind really quick, sort of building off the last question about like using Austin public spaces and equipment, and just sort of what kind of things you guys look for to give back. Specifically with this spaces. So you guys have that really big space. I think it's just called like Studio One. What gives someone, could someone like film an entire project in there? Are there like limitations as to what you can use that space for, I guess? Anything like that?
Uh, it's I mean, it's pretty restricted in the sense of like length of time. So
Right.
really the answer is whatever you can shoot in there up to a 5 hour spot and physically bring in and out in that time frame.
Mhm.
We're not built for long term. So we Austin Public is more of the TV station slash like public access side of things. And
Right.
a lot of people are shooting pretty quick, like in and out TV shows, mostly like live music, talk shows, variety shows. So that tends to be more of our community media side of things. But we also
Gotcha.
do a lot of training, like anything that's over 10, 12 people that can't fit in our conference room or is more hands-on is taught in there. We do
Oh,
we have a works in progress program where someone in the community can apply to have their uh, pretty much like finished film screened and get feedback on. So that happens once a month, and so there's a lot that's happening in there. And so I wish we had multiple versions of Studio One. We just don't. But we also run we manage Austin Studios. Which is it's an AFS location, but it's still city property, part of the old airport. That does come at a larger expense because it's a rental site for commercial work. But there's some pretty large hangar space up there. There's also office space, for temporary like projects that are available. So if you are working on a pretty large project, you could look into that. It's actually fairly accessible right now. It used to be taken up completely by Rooster Teeth, the production company, and also Walker was there for 4 seasons. But Walker was canceled and Rooster Teeth went bankrupt. So we lost both of them at once.
oh my
So
God.
it is
Like
pretty.
Walker as in Chuck Norris?
Well, it was the new version. It was the new
Oh, okay.
Walker Texas Ranger, and um,
It was Chuck Norris in a walker.
yeah, it was what's his name, Jared, the Padalecki or Padalecki, however you say his last name.
Mhm.
Walker Texas Geriatrics.
When you
But
say
yeah.
when you say you manage this Austin studio space, what is that? What do you mean in terms of like, is that connected to Austin Public then, or?
It is in the sense that it's one of Austin Film Society's locations. So we have 3 locations. We have AFS Cinema, which is a 2 screen art house theater with a third like event space, and that's where we do screenings 7 days a week, multiple screenings each day. We do member mixers. So if you're an AFS member, that's going to be where the member mixers are, and that's a great space to meet other people and see a lot of great film. And then Austin Studios is our original location. That's back in 2000. We took over that space, and so we manage the space and then we sublet it to productions. And so it's all part of it's. I mean, I can get in the weeds of it, but it was part of the economic development department within the city of Austin. It's now shifted over, I believe, into city finance, but that's part of. So basically, the city of Austin gave AFS that property to flip into sound stages, which was part of the old airport, and flip into sound stages and allow it to be rented out for attracting productions to come into Austin to then hire our crew, stay at our hotels, eat at our restaurants. So it's all part of economic growth and impact. And then Austin Public came around in 2015, which has been a building part of public access TV since about 1992. But AFS took over the contract in 2015. And this is our community media space where we manage the producer program. We manage Creative Careers, which is a paid workforce development program, and our current version of our internship. And then we also have artist development. So this is where the staff is housed for grants. We do a few different. We do a feature and a shorts grant. Like the short grant is coming up this summer. We do travel grants. If you get into a film festival and you need help traveling, you can apply for a travel grant for that. But
That's cool.
we do that's the works in progress screenings is also run within that department.
Yeah,
So it's all housed at Austin Public. So it's just one. AFS has 3 locations, and they all kind of do a little bit of what we call sort of the ecosystem, the creative ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm kind of piecing that together. So through the producer program though, we don't have access to the studio.
No, the producer program is squarely at Austin Public using the resources that are here that are city owned that we have funding to buy. We have funding every year to buy new resources. So through the producer program, you have access to the 3 studios here, through training, all the gear here. You could, I probably should know this. I don't know that there's an actual discount on rentals at Austin Studios within like being an AFS member, but
Okay.
not with being a producer. The producer is separate, just accessing the resources,
Yeah.
and being a part of that community. But if you were an AFS member, you would get discounts on the classes here at Austin Public, discounts on screenings at the cinema. And I know at one point, if still not today, there's discounts on like the rentals over there. But no, that's not affiliated, but it's all on our website, austinfilm.org. You can go to the Austin Studio section and see the rental process and like costs for the studio
Okay.
over there.
Cool. Okay. Awesome.
Doug, really quick, did I hear you before say that that there's like a 5-hour limit or cap on renting Studio One, or were you just saying an arbitrary number?
No, it is 5 hours. So we encourage collaboration if you need it. It's just our studios are not built to be multi-day reservations for film production.
Right.
We have plenty of film equipment that you can take out for 5 days at a time, and then post-production gear like laptops and Blackmagic panels and things can be taken out for 10 days at a time. But the nature of sort of our roots in public access TV, and still the amount of people who are coming in and doing, say, like an hour setup, an hour show, and an hour strike, we are built on like 4 or 5 hour blocks of studio time within Studio 1, 2, and 3.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So to answer your question, whatever you can do, if you take Studio One class and you learn, you'll learn all the things about Studio One, even if you just need sort of a black box to shoot in there. You'll have 5 hour chunk of 5 hours, and if you're collaborating with somebody, you could get a full 10-hour day if you wanted to, and then you have the freedom to shoot whatever you can within that time frame and load in, load out. We don't have the capacity to hold on to like sets or anything. We don't have a lot of great storage.
Gotcha.
So it's one of our main limitations, but the way that this building was built and the way it was structured, it was more focused on TV shows. And then with AFS taking over in 2015, the shift in demand for this place sort of became more long format filmmakers. And the building is still not really built and the demand is high enough that we really can't accommodate like long-term or multi-day shoots. But luckily we do have, I shared it earlier. There's a link to our FAQ for our artist development. So there is one of those drop-down FAQs talks about studios. So there is a list of like studios in town.
Yes.
But then also
Beautiful.
Studios also is rentable.
Cool.
Okay, I didn't see that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I'll